Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, shit of all ages, HolllywoodShono here, about to give you a Steam Deck update video. Now, as you guys know, I got a Steam Deck on August the 1st, and one of the main things that drove me to having Windows on here is the Razer Deathstalker V2, which is totally compatible with Razer Synapse, and also the Razer Naga Pro. Both fully support RGB, as you can see right here, and also wireless is a big selling point. Now, there are a couple of reasons that I'm using Windows over SteamOS. Although I prefer SteamOS for actual gaming, one of the reasons that I actually have SteamOS and Windows, I'm going to show you guys exactly why I have both. First off, when you go to Steam, there's a couple of games that you can't actually play on SteamOS. One of them is Destiny 2. Another one is Phantasy Star Online 2. You also cannot play Lost Ark. And you cannot play Dragon Ball FighterZ because for some reason the DRM is not supported on SteamOS. So I have Phantasy Star New Genesis installed, and I also have Destiny 2 installed on the Steam Deck. There's a couple other reasons why I prefer Windows over the Steam Deck, and a couple sources. First off, PlayStation Remote Play works a lot better on the native Windows app than trying to daisy chain things around. Another reason that I have Windows is because you can actually download PC Xbox Game Pass versus streaming the Xbox client. Now, if there's a game on Xbox that is not available on Steam, you can go that route and install the digital one on SteamOS. But also, you can get an Amazon App Store directly on the Windows version of the Steam Deck called Amazon Games. So you can get a whole bunch of add-ons. You can even get free games from here. This is why I have Windows installed. Also, for the fact that certain games just do not work on Linux. They will work, however, on Windows. And one of the big ones that I want to work on in the very near future is WWE 2K22. And if I have to partition an additional 50 gigabytes to make WWE 2K22 along with music work, we have that option. I'm a huge fan of Windows, but I also have a lot of respect for Linux. So that is why I dual boot into both. So we're going to go shut down Windows right now. I do have some updates that I need to do, but we're going to shut down the Steam Deck. Now, to boot into actual SteamOS, you're going to want to let it shut down for a few seconds, hold the volume down button, and then when you hear the beep, okay, there's the beep, let go of the volume down button, and it'll boot right into SteamOS, the dual boot, so it can boot into SteamOS or Windows. Okay, so if you do the dual boot correctly by holding volume down when you press the power on, you'll be greeted to this screen. Now, obviously, Windows does boot first. However, if you boot into SteamOS, you can boot into desktop and SteamOS perfectly fine. So we're going to boot into SteamOS. Now, one thing to note as well, I have my PlayStation 5 controller hooked right up to my Steam Deck, and I can control it wirelessly. So there's a no signal as it's booting back into SteamOS. And in just a moment, we'll be booting into Steam. And we're going to show you guys my emulation library as well as how certain things also work. Now, keep in mind, I do not condone owning any game that you don't own. And Nintendo is very strict on hacking, modding, and anything else. Keep in mind, all of the games that I have emulated, I physically own on a disc. So there is a right to having a digital copy because I paid money for it. I'm not distributing it to anybody else, and I have no intentions of giving that to anybody else. So we're going to library, and you can see all the games that I have installed here. So we have a bunch of collections. I don't know why the Steam Deck is loading so weird. Do I need to free up some storage? That's why it's all bogged up. So we got some Dreamcast games. I have not set up the Dreamcast emulator, and I don't know why it's doubling the games. I might just have to delete half of them. But the whole point of emulation is that I want games that are not available on Steam that I personally own. I want the games like Crazy Taxi 2, like Evolution 2, and the first Evolution. I also want Mortal Kombat Gold and the original Soul Calibur. Now, as far as the Gamecube games, we got some bangers. We got Breath of Fire, we got Def Jam, Fight for New York, and Vendetta. We got Final Fantasy Echoes of Time. We got Fire Emblem Path of Radiance, which started the whole Fire Emblem series. We got the original Metroid Prime. We got the original Super Mario Sunshine, Super Smash Bros. Melee, and WWE Day of Reckoning. Now, that doesn't mean I don't have more games to put on here. This is an emulation / Steam Deck showcase. I can put whatever game I want on my Steam Deck, but the emulation is a little bit more difficult to pull off. Next up on the list, we have 47 Nintendo 64 games. And keep in mind, some of the artwork is not perfect. Some of it you do have to modify. So I've modified all the Nintendo 64. Luckily, it's kept all of the artwork. So your artwork might vary a little bit. Now, we also have one of the more controversial ones, Nintendo Switch. But again, I own all of these games. I don't know why Monster Hunter Rise is shown on here twice. Again, that could be something that we delete. But the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Cowabunga Collection, Fire Emblem Three Houses, Diablo Eternal Collection, and Monster Hunter Rise. I personally own a copy of each of these games. So this falls under fair use. I'm not distributing the software to anybody. It's for personal use. Therefore, it falls under fair use. I also have 56 PlayStation games. I have not gone through all of these and changed the artwork. Like Ogre Battle is a little bit messed up. Persona showed Persona 5 for some messed up reason. And if it's a game on multiple discs, it's going to show each one separately. So keep that in mind as well. And even some of the artwork, like SmackDown 2, I don't like that style or Twisted Metal. So I'm going to have to change it. We also have some PlayStation 2 emulation. And these were all basically on one disc. This is when Blu-ray started coming out and DVDs that had higher capacity. This one obviously is the original SmackDown vs. Raw. For some reason it says 2006. But again, the theme here is games I do not own on any other system. I don't want a bunch of versions of Mortal Kombat 4. I want a version that I can use. Now, as you guys can see, I spent a lot of time on PlayStation 3. And these are obviously games that are not available on PlayStation 4 or PlayStation 5, except for Demon's Souls. But you can't emulate a PS4 or PS5. I physically own Demon's Souls on both PS3 and PS5. And then there's other games like Dragon's Crown. This was a good game that was on PlayStation 4. Family Game Night, something fun for kids and whatnot. God of War Ascension, God of War 3. Injustice Gods Among Us, which looks a lot better than the PC version, which needs to get optimized. Killzone 3, King of Fighters 13, Little Big Planet 3, Lollipop Chainsaw, Marvel Ultimate Alliance 1 and 2. We got the Mortal Kombat Complete Edition, which Freddy Krueger and Kratos are on here. Mortal Kombat vs. DC Universe. NBA Jam, I think this was the digital version that came out in like 2009, which was kind of but it's still on here. Simpsons Game, Soul Calibur 4 and 5. Street Fighter Cross Tekken, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutants in Manhattan, Tekken 6, Tekken Tag Tournament 2, an amazing game. The Twisted Metal game, which was really good. UFC Undisputed 2009. This artwork is wrong, but UFC 2009 was actually really good and probably the best one that THQ came out with. Virtua Fighter 5, WWE 2K14. I need to see if I can somehow do custom music in this game. I'm not sure. WWE All-Stars is also on here. Now, as far as the PSP, again, I have to work on the cover art. I have to change the name because these names are just ridiculous. But again, these are games that you cannot get on other systems, like Tekken Dark Resurrection, Mortal Kombat Unchained. If this is on a different PlayStation, I'll get rid of it. I could get rid of Marvel Ultimate Alliance, but Final Fantasy Tactics War of the Lions, amazing game. Crisis Core Final Fantasy 7, Monster Hunter Freedom Unite, Soul Calibur Broken Destiny, and even Marvel Ultimate Alliance 2. Because I have the PS3 versions, I can get rid of the Marvel Ultimate Alliance on PSP, but I downloaded them here anyways just to see if I could run them. Now then, I also have a bunch of Super Nintendo games, a couple Wii games, and one Xbox game. Again, I have to work on the cover art for this. This takes a lot of time. And some of the games like NHL 94, the original NBA Jam, Mortal Kombat 3, for some reason is not on this list. It should be, unless it's under Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3, but that was also a great game, and it is. Ultima was a great series that I wish would have continued after Ultima Online. And then obviously WWF Raw, Royal Rumble, WrestleMania Arcade Game Classics, Virtual Bar, WCW Super Brawl, Wizardry 5, the original Wolfenstein 3D with crappy graphics. Tetris and Dr. Mario, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Tournament Fighters, Turtles in Time, Tecmo Super Bowl, one of the best all-time games. Even Super Metroid, Super Punch-Out. There's some Zelda games in here. There's some Mario games in here. There's just so many games. Super Nintendo was one of my favorite consoles growing up in my teen years. We also have 2 games on the Wii. Super Smash Bros. Brawl. And on the Xbox, we have Dead or Alive 3. I'm still working on getting the Xbox working. But just to show you guys, we're going to run a GameCube game. We're going to run Metroid Prime for you guys. We're going to run one game from each of the emulators. And I'm going to show you the desktop mode before we end the Steam Deck video. If you guys want to see some tutorials on emulation, I can also do that as well. Obviously, don't condone it if you don't own the game yourself. But, let's face it, the Steam Deck is one of the best retro consoles out there. Now, keep in mind the graphics on this are boxy because, as you guys know, TVs were 4x3. Steam menu, which is why Emudeck is one of the best emulators out there. So now we're going to run, now that we ran a GameCube game, let's run a Nintendo Switch game. Let's run the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Cowabunga Collection, which is also available on Steam. Also, the Diablo 3 game works really well. You cannot play it online, you cannot play the seasons, but yes, it does work. I'm not going to provide you the keys or the firmware, and you also need to own the game, or it's considered stealing. If you own the game, it's fair use, but don't go bragging about how you got the games. And there you can see it loads up perfectly. Now, one thing to note with the Switch emulator, you have to actually use the Steam Deck as a controller. You cannot actually use Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. You might be able to fire up a Switch. But it runs. It runs and it works. So yes, Nintendo Switch emulator does work. Alright, next up we're going to fire up a PlayStation 3 game. Let's go fire up some Tekken 6. Now, a lot of the games are going to have shaders or something that you have to install on PlayStation 3. Like, for example, compiling the PPU modules. If you're familiar with shaders in games like Borderlands, Monster Hunter Rise, it's the same process every time you run a PlayStation 3 game for the first time. Those of you guys that remember, the PlayStation 3 was the last PlayStation console that actually benefited having discs versus digital. Why? Because some of the data actually ran off the disc. PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5, there is no benefit to having the games on a disc other than letting your friends borrow the games. So you can see that the PPU modules are going pretty quickly here. It's not going to take too much longer, as it's only got to compile, looks like 51 shaders. Some of the games have 200 shaders, which is pretty ridiculous. Games like God of War 3 that are like 40 or 50 gigs might have even more. But you have to do this with every PlayStation 3 game that you run, or it's not going to run. Now, I've spent more time on the Steam Deck working on emulation than I have actually playing games. But I can confirm that some games like Mortal Kombat 11 that are shown as unsupported work perfectly fine. Tekken 7 is another one. If your HDMI cable is into the Steam Deck, take it out, and then it runs perfectly fine. It's a weird little issue with Tekken 7, but it's there. Some of the games, obviously, like Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, do have some issues. WWE 2K22 is hit or miss. The game can run or the game can crash. Works perfectly fine in Windows. And that is definitely a game I want to screw with the audio on, because I love having custom entrances. And if I can run it in Windows, that's great. So installing the trophy set, please do not turn off the PlayStation 3 system. And there we go. Tekken 6 working perfectly fine on an emulator. If they would port these games to the actual consoles, we would never be friends. We would just pay the money and get it. So Tekken 6 works perfectly fine. No issues here. And move on to the next one. So PlayStation 3 confirmed to work. PlayStation 2. Let's go fire up Tekken 5. It's actually Tekken 5. One of my favorite games on the PlayStation 2, SmackDown vs. Raw. Final Fantasy 12, also a great game, but I have it on Steam. No reason to put it on here. Next up, let's fire up the PSP. Let's put on Final Fantasy Tactics More Than Life. Again, I have to change the artwork. I have to put a cover on here. So I'm not fully done. There's more to do. But I just want to show you guys that these emulators do run and that the games run crispy. There it is, Final Fantasy Tactics More Than Life. And again, it doesn't matter if you run the games at 30 or 60 FPS. That's what matters. Now, there are some games like Infamous 2 that's supposed to have performance issues. I'm guessing it's with the hardware of the emulator more than anything else. Let's run Super Smash Bros. Brawl on the Wii next. Super Nintendo we know works. There's no reason to run it. Do not let go of the Wii remote jacket. Very important there. Now, this game was on the Wii. There was a co-op mode, which was a lot of fun on the Wii version. Also the DS version. I have not gotten into Game Boy and DS emulation yet. But Super Nintendo and the Wii I've gotten into. Xbox I've had a little bit of issues emulating, so I'm not going to show you that emulator. And I haven't run all of these yet, which is why obviously you're seeing the stuff with Smash. But I just want to show you guys that it is possible. Look at that, how great it runs. Smash Brothers Brawl. Again, why is this game an emulator? Nintendo's not going to port.
Classic mode. Mario.
And we are ready to fight.
Versus Sheik.
That's me being a pro. The dub. So now
Versus Diddy Kong.
A little bit of emulation. What do I actually have that is not secret? You can see I have more emulated games than normal. So I got Back 4 Blood, Baldur's Gate 3, Baldur's Gate 2. I bought all these Batman games for $8.99. Arkham Asylum, Arkham City, Arkham Knight, great games. Blaze Blue, Continuous Shift Extend actually does run. Bloodstained Ritual of the Night, Borderlands 2, Borderlands 3, which takes up a lot of storage. We're talking like 130 gigs. This game is meant for an SD card. There is no reason you should install this on your console unless you stream Borderlands 10 hours a day. Then put it on your console. Borderlands Game of the Year Edition, Pre-Sequel, Capcom Beam Up Bundle, Castlevania Collection, Chrono Trigger, Contra Evolution, Cyberpunk, Dark Souls 2, Dead Rising 4, Dead or Alive 6, Dead Island, this is got to go in the junk folder eventually, DC Universe Online, DayZ, Darkest Dungeon, Dark Souls 3, as well as Dark Souls 2, Destiny 2, which obviously does not work, and this is why Windows is good to have dual booted. We're looking at the game info right here. This game's anti-cheat is not configured to support Steam Deck. You would think a game as popular as Destiny, and even Lost Ark and PSO New Genesis, you would try to find ways to get the anti-cheat to work on Linux, because that's just some bullshit. We also got Disgaea 2, 4, 5, 1, Divine Divinity, Divinity Original Sin 2, the first Divinity, which for some reason is not supported, Dota 2, Doom Eternal, Doom 64, Doom 3, Doom 2, the original Doom, the 2016 Doom. Got the Double Dragon Trilogy, Dragon Age 2, Dragon Age Inquisition, Dragon Age Origins, which for some reason has a question mark. Dragon Ball Fighter Z is also under the DRM issues. Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2, Dragon Mark for Death, Dragon Quest 11, great game, Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen, Dying Light, Dungeon Siege 3, 2, and 1, Dungeon Lords, Dungeon Defenders 2, Awaken, Dungeon Defenders, Duke Nukem Forever, Elden Ring, Elder Scrolls Arena, Daggerfall, Morrowind, Oblivion, Online, Skyrim, Fallout, Fallout 2, Fallout 3, Fallout 4, Fallout 76, Fallout New Vegas, Fallout Tactics, Final Doom, a bunch of Final Fantasy games. I think I have every one except for the Remake Integrate, which I might pull the trigger on as soon as it goes 50% off. Got Final Fantasy here. Got 13. This one is an interesting one because 13.2 says that the game's graphics settings cannot be configured to run well on Steam Deck. Well, that's a game problem, not Steam Deck. Shows that the graphics are just insane. Final Fantasy 15, 10, 10.2, Fire Pro Wrestling World. We got Hexen, Heroes Might and Magic 3 Classic, Heretic, Guilty Gear Strive, Grim Dawn, Gravity Wars, which is in the junk pile. Some of these I just don't feel like playing. Hexen, Idol Champions, Injustice 2, Injustice 1, Killer Instinct, Killing Floor, King of Fighters 13, 14, and 15. 13 is supposed to be unsupported, which is why I put it on PS3. Kingdoms of Amalur, Re-Reckoning, Last Epoch, Left 4 Dead 1 and 2, Legend of Grimrock, Trails in the Sky, which is not supported, still can play the game on Windows. Lightning Returns, Lost Ark, Anti-Cheat DRM is another one. The Mega Man games, for some reason, this one is not supported, yet these two fully work, which is weird. Then we got the Mass Effect Trilogy. We got Marvel Avengers, which does actually run. Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. Mafia, which everybody got for free. Surprise, surprise, doesn't work on the Steam Deck. Meridian 59, you have to be really young to remember this game in its prime. Middle-earth Shadow of Mordor. Heroes of Might and Magic 6 and 7, Monster Hunter Rise, Monster Hunter Stories 2, Monster Hunter World, Mortal Kombat 11, Arcade Collection. This one is legit, does not run. So you got to run that on Windows. PSO New Genesis, Path of Exile, Octopath Traveler, Neverwinter Dragon Slayer, NBA 2K18, Playgrounds 2, Multiverses, Mortal Kombat X, Mortal Kombat 9, Pillars of Eternity Deadfire, Plants vs. Zombies, Puzzle Quest 2, Puzzle Quest 3, Quake, a bunch of Quake games. Got Retromania Wrestling, River City Ransom Underground, Rocket League, Sacred Gold, Scarlet Nexus, Genesis Collection, Civilization 6, Street Fighter 5 does run. Street Fighter Anniversary Collection does run. Star Wars Old Republic, Star Wars 2, Splunky, South Park Stick of Truth, Fractured Butthole, Soul Calibur 6, Skullgirls, Second Encore, Street Fighter Cross Tekken, you probably have to run this in Windows, Streets of Rage 4, Streets of Rogue, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge. I loved it. What, a lot of people had this on the Steam Deck. Tekken 7, False Information. Don't put an HDMI cable, it works great. Put it back in once it loads. Tiny Tina's Wonderlands went from playable to unsupported for some reason. Titan Quest Anniversary Edition, Titan Souls, Titanfall 2 they gave out for like $4.99 last week. Great deal. Witcher 3 is constantly on sale for $10 for the Game of the Year edition. Highly worth it. Witcher 2, the first Witcher, Warframe, Ultra Street Fighter 4, Marvel vs. Capcom 3, Torchlight 3, 2, 1, Wizardry 6, 7, 8, Labyrinth of Refrain, 5 Ordeals. I'm supporting that game as well. Wizrogue, Labyrinth of Wizardry, World of Final Fantasy, WWE 2K Battlegrounds, 2K15 all the way to 22. You can tell I'm a WWE supporter. And most recently as today, I bought all of the Wise games. So yeah, I have a lot of games on the Steam Deck. Are a lot of them great on the deck? No. So now we're going to boot into the desktop mode, and I'm going to show you guys the desktop. Now one good thing is if you're already in SteamOS, you're going to have no issues booting the desktop at all. And all my icons show back up. Vim's Lair is a great place to download older ROMs. And there's some other things here. But I just want to show you guys that the Steam Deck is a wonderful piece of tech. A great piece of hardware. And yeah, it is definitely something that is very customizable. And it's something that is great. Yes, I'm holding this backwards so I don't stress the wire too much. Or so I don't knock anything on the ground. But this is a nice piece of tech. Obviously, the battery life could be a little bit better, and I think this is the biggest weakness of the Steam Deck. If batteries ever get smaller and hold as much charge, I could see a 15,000 milliamp 100 watt hour battery put in here, and you'd see some amazing battery life on the Steam Deck. But could you imagine a 100 watt hour battery and a Switch? 20 hours OLED? Sign me up today. But if you like this little emulation / Steam Deck update from over a month and a half ago, please give this video a like rating, comment, subscribe, share this video amongst your friends, and as a favorite, check out my other Steam Deck videos that are coming up. Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch, which are all HollywoodShono. My Instagram, which is HollywoodShono's God. I have a Facebook group, HollywoodShono Gaming, and I have a Discord server. If you play some mobile games, if you play some console games, if you play some PC games, if you love wrestling, come hang out with me. I'd really appreciate it. Thank you for watching. Have a wonderful day, everybody. We'll see you guys soon for some more Steam Deck videos.
www.youtube.com/HollywoodShono. Subscribe, bitches!